Welcome to the Not Superheroes Just Dads podcast. No, we can't fly. No, we can't shoot lasers or pick up giant buildings. But what we can do is help set the foundations for our families, be present for our kids, and combat generational cycles. On this podcast, we dive into everything dad related, from the struggles we deal with as dads to what our favorite thing to barbecue is. Hello, I'm Sean Laurie. I hope you guys are doing great today. Like always, make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. I appreciate the support. And today, guys, I always like to bring some type of guest that I think is amazing and that can bring some insight. And so I'm excited to have this cool guy over here, Brady. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. Thanks for
So what I like to do, man, I like to do icebreakers. Um, Before we start, just to get a little bit of attention, man. So I want to ask you, what was your first, no, two-part question. What was your first thought when you found out you was gonna have your son? And then the second part, are you, are you, how should I put this? When your son was being born, are you the person that has to look, or do you look away? For all four of my kids, I had to look away. I can't do it. Some people are like, oh, it's a beautiful thing. It's disgusting to me. Sorry, I'm just being honest. But was you able to just view, like, just embrace the whole birth, or were you like me, kind of chicken out?
All right. The first question, when I figured out we were pregnant, I was overjoyed. I started crying. I mean, we made that decision. It was early on in the relationship, but we knew, and when it happened, we were excited. We didn't think it was going to happen so fast, but man, I was overjoyed. And as far as the delivery goes, man, it wasn't like I had to look type thing, but it was like curiosity got the best of me type thing.
Yeah.
I wasn't actively like, what's all going down. But I also wasn't scared either. It not easily grossed out or anything, but the whole birthing process was, I mean, people, it feels cliche to say it's beautiful, but honestly it was. I mean, it was a very intimate uh, event for us as a
Yeah.
couple. I mean, we had our own playlist going. I mean, we were singing, we were jamming with the delivery nurse and stuff. Like,
So
it was, it was fun. Like, we had a great time. As soon as he came out, she leaned over to me and said, "I could do another one," and I was
oh
like,
dang.
"Okay."
Hey, that's dope. She's
We're
like, you know what, this is nothing, I'm good.
tough, the toughest person.
Jeez, yeah, no, salute to her for sure. Because, man, I know as men, I'm sorry, y'all, I don't think we can handle giving birth. I'm
No,
just being
I
honest.
absolutely could not.
I'm
As
like,
much
what?
as I love having kids, it'd be like, man, I'm adopting. I'm adopting.
Yeah, yeah. It's not for me. Not for me. Um, with that being said, now, guys, today, actually, as Brady, I figured this be a, well, no, actually, he figured this be a great conversation, and I agreed. Honestly, y'all, as fathers, right, and I talk about this a lot, guys, is emotional intelligence, right, and understanding different things like that. So, today we're going to dive into regulating our emotions as fathers, and teaching our kids to kind of do the same. And so, my bad, y'all. If y'all hear a little noise in the background, too, my son is not feeling good, so he's kind of nearby just because he wants to be close to dad. But with that being said, man, um, I want to ask you, bro, like, why do you think it's important for us as fathers to kind of be able to control our emotions? I guess not to get overwhelmed with certain things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's most important just because I saw and uh, while I was growing up, how that affected me, my emotional regulation, my parents' emotional regulation, and how that affected me. And then when I became a father and saw the give and take of how the regulation worked, as far as just the happiness in my household.
Mm,
And it kind of brought me back to what I dealt with growing up. And I just saw the correlation of when I first became a father and didn't, wasn't actively thinking about my regulation, how my regulation was very similar to my father growing up and such. And even thinking back about, because my brother as well, my brother's really severe autism and stuff. So his ability to emotionally regulate is much, much harder than it
Yeah.
is. So his ability to redirect that at his
Hmm.
own level, it was it was going to be up to the parent. He was going to follow that because he wasn't going to
Yeah.
just step aside, as you or I could do, and be like, okay, I've got to sit down and figure out how I can, regulate.
Mm.
So, yeah. So when my son was younger, I saw some of that, boil up just from what I grew up with. I was dating a girl for 2 years who lived with us with two kids, and I saw the dysregulation that brought as soon as they moved in with three
Oh wow.
kids,
Yeah.
after having one, and then just, all that coming together and the massive dysregulation that brought me. And,
Mm.
you know, there's times that uh, my dysregulation got much best of me. I mean, there was one time, something, it hadn't didn't have to do with the situation. It was where I was at as far as just the completely overwhelmed, not enough time for myself, chaos in the
Yeah.
household. I punched a hole through my door.
Mm.
That was my moment right there. And, I saw my father do the same thing one time. I
Yeah.
was different situation. I was in the um, the dishwasher room, closed the door on myself, and my dad punched the wall. A little bit more scary. So
Yeah.
no one saw my thing. But I mean, when that happened, I immediately broke down in tears because
Mm.
it broke me. I never wanted, I saw that from my father, and I never wanted to do that. I also never wanted to be the white guy who punches holes through walls. That's the joke about us. And I know I'm better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so that really was kind of my breaking moment. Not that I hadn't already kind of thought about regulations
Yeah.
and stuff, but that was my okay. We have to step back. I've got to figure this out. I can
Mm.
never let myself lose control like that. If I'm
Yeah.
going to lose control like that, I have to be away.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna go outside and throw something down at the ground, that's cool. Like
Yeah.
nobody's gonna hurt. No one's seeing that anger being displayed. But yeah, I realized that I had to work on that, and uh, I do have ADHD, and
Mhm.
I am slightly on the spectrum myself. So
Yeah.
with that, and knowing my son is autistic,
Hmm.
we're both from the get go going to struggle with emotional dysregulation.
Mm.
So, and I, kind of recently figured out that I was on the spectrum, and even since then, that was after that, kind of moment where I realized that I had to, come to it,
Yeah.
and realized that, you know, I was I was going to have to be his example,
Mm.
to regulate. Even after
Okay.
it was just me and him now, a lot less chaos. But I
Yeah.
had to teach him and show him. And the biggest thing that that has helped me is realizing is when that situation happens, whether it's especially when your child has a tantrum or and loses it. And with a child with autism, when that big tantrum happens, it can be very scary.
Mm.
Uh, it it doesn't get there like that anymore, but I realized that I didn't have to worry about him first. I had to worry about me
Mm.
because you have to be regulated to deal with that situation. if you go to find a solution for that tantrum while you are at that critical limit of dysregulation, nothing's gonna happen.
Mm.
They don't feel safe. It's not that they're
Yeah.
not physically safe, but they don't feel that
Yeah.
where they can let go of that place that they're at, where
Let her out. Mm.
uh, and immediately once I started working on that, things changed. I mean, and it didn't have to take much. It was just you know I walked out of the room, I took a breath,
Yeah.
or I ignored the situation. I mean, long as he's not hurt, he's
Yeah.
not
Of
himself
course.
in danger, and I go do a chore,
Mm.
like when you're having a hard time, you get something accomplished,
Yeah.
like you take
Yeah.
yourself away, put yourself in a situation, put some music in, loop earplugs, fantastic. Uh,
Well,
with
that's what I wanted to ask you. So I know your brother. Are you the big brother or younger brother?
I'm the big brother, even though he's a lot bigger than me.
Okay. Yeah, he's the little buff brother.
Yeah.
um, now, with that being said, I was gonna ask because, like you said, like with your parents, like not being able to really hone in at times emotionally. Do you think that also played a part of, like you say, your brother um, being autistic? Some, do you think that was new for them, where they just didn't know how to deal with it, and that's why maybe at times, like you say, like they got overwhelmed with emotion too, right? And I guess it's a two-part question because that's the first part. The second part is right, like we are a product of our environment. We're a product of how we're raised, right? And so um, I don't know the relationship between your dad and his dad, which I guess your grandpa, right? So like, was it something as well where he didn't get a good example when it came to his certain emotions as well, and so that's how he grew up. And so it's like it fell. It's not fair, right? But it fell on your brother. It fell on you as well. And now it's like all those generations of not really under being emotional intelligent and being able to really hone into certain things, and now it kind of fell on you, right? Especially now that you have your son to do the work to help your son.
I I really I've never really gotten a picture of that relationship that they had, my father
Mm-hmm.
and his father. I mean, I know that there wasn't. I never got a sense that there had ever been a very big tense situation between that. I always got the idea that my father's very well behaved child
Yeah.
all the way through. You know, church kid, didn't do anything wrong, bookworm type thing. Like he didn't get in trouble.
Mm.
So his idea was the parenting is I never said these things to my parents. I never misbehaved to my parents. So why can't you be like I was?
Mm.
But I'm a very different child, different generation. I
Yeah.
have a brother that creates chaos in the household, a very different vibe in that household.
Yeah.
My dad and his brother are very, very quiet people.
Mm.
My dad's very talkative, but they're very to themselves. Like there wasn't going to be that chaos in the household. I'm sure when they were really young, I mean, they're little kids, but
Yeah. Of
I
course.
don't think that there was that sense of a situation that ever, brought that kind of dysregulation. But I mean, I'm sure that there was some, and that's where that situation of how the reaction happened. So maybe that is something that happened from his father. I never really got that picture. We've never really
Mm.
had those conversations.
Well, like you said, like right, like good kid, did what he's supposed to do. Also, right, it's a I guess double edged sword because also I think our parents our parents' generation in a sense, some of them kind of raised us like that too. Hey, you know, it's grown people talking right now, right? Like step out the room, or don't like don't say anything type of thing. Like this is what I say, this is it.
Yeah.
Um, and so maybe I don't know, but maybe that's how he grew up. And so
Yeah.
when he had you guys, right, it's like, hey, you guys should do the same.
Mhm.
You guys should be operating the same way. Where
Yeah.
even if you feel a certain way, even if you're upset, it doesn't matter. Like just hone these emotions in, right? Bottle all these emotions in and just do what you're told. And so,
Absolutely.
right, just imagine though if you're growing up like that as a kid, and then you have kids, and you're just thinking that's how you're supposed to do. Matter of fact, I'm not even gonna really express myself. So yeah, I'm mad, but instead of me really saying why I'm upset, I'm gonna punch this wall, right?
Mhm.
Because growing up, I couldn't say I was mad. If I say I was mad, that's being disrespectful. I'm not. I don't know for
Yeah.
sure, but I'm just trying to kind of put pieces together, right? And as far as because, like you said, you know, being able to really hone in emotionally, was it something that your dad was the best at, right? I'm sure he was good at many other things, but that was something he struggled with. And then I'm just thinking that on top of, your brother needing
Mhm.
to have that example, like you said, and being able to have certain talks.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree. Is the generational thing of that older generation of you know it was my way of the highway.
Yeah.
That's not really. I mean, it is for some, and uh, it even comes down to even culturally parenting, how the amount of strictness and stuff like that. But I feel like as a whole, a lot of people my age, millennial parenting, have grown that emotional intelligence as far as parenting, where they can have those conversations. Even if they don't go well, I think the fact that you're having those conversations to come to an understanding, even if they're not going well, where you're not just saying this is going to happen. I don't think
True.
that's fair unless it's something. I mean, there's things that have to be done. Your kid has
Yeah.
to stop this or that, but I mean, the conversation should always be open, in my opinion.
Yeah.
We have to be able to talk. They have to be able to explain that, because to stop further issues down the line, if you don't have those conversations to figure out where those feelings come from, it's going to continue happening. We want to find that middle road where, okay, I can't say or do this to my son because it gets this outcome. It makes him feel this way, and that's so huge, just to be able to. And that's why the regulating your emotions is so important, because if you aren't regulated, that conversation, one, probably can't happen, and if it does happen, it's not going to go well. It's going to be headbutt back, and it's not going to get anywhere. And that, if anything, sometimes the conversations that happen when you're dysregulated can make things much worse, because I mean, he's 5, so it doesn't get that way. But an older child, say
Yeah.
you're a teen year old, and if y'all are both very dysregulated, that can get very very loud and aggressive. If
Yeah.
you know,
So how did you figure out for you, or I should say, what is some of the ways that instead of you maybe bottling up some of those emotions, right? Or like you said, punching the wall because you just had to let it out somehow, right? Which again, that's a normal. I mean, you're not the only man that does it. There's still a bunch of men that do that right at times. They gotta punch something like, hey, I don't want to physically harm you, so I'm gonna punch this wall or whatever it is, right? I've actually had a friend that broke his hand doing that before. So um, so I want to ask you, like, what is some of those ways that you figured out how to relieve some of that stress or that anxiety or just being overwhelmed instead of just, I'm just gonna take it all in and that's it, or I'm gonna take it all in, but unconsciously, I'm actually taking it out on my child because I'm irritated. So normally my child, is jumping on the bed or something like that, and normally I'm whatever on it. But today I really yelled at him because I'm already in this like space.
mm-hmm. The first thing and the biggest thing is breathing
Mm,
techniques, and just because you know you're regulating is your central nervous system. So you get that breathing back to a normal rhythm. You lower your blood pressure. You can get back to being in that, you know, safer space of mind where you're not in the emotion. You can go back to your brain of going to your logic and not your emotion. Not that you're ignoring that emotion, but you're taking your emotion that you know that you're feeling and you go to analyze it with your logic and think of, you know, is this a proper feeling? Why is my child doing this? Why is he feeling this way? So you take yourself back out of the situation, almost like a third person in the situation, and analyze it. And, you know, a lot of times that takes stepping away. Or sometimes, you know, if he's very dysregulated, just letting him act. If he's not hurting himself, if he's just yelling, let it happen. If you're in public, he looks crazy. I remember growing up seeing people's kids acting, you know, having a fit, and I'm like, are you gonna do something? And now
Yeah.
I'm like, those were good parents. You know, as long as they weren't ignoring it entirely. You know,
Yeah.
stop, calm down. He sees that he's not getting the reaction because a lot of times that fit is they need something that they're not getting or they're feeling that way. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. They're having that fit of something they want. And sorry, what had I said right before that?
No, basically, no, no worries, bro. No worries. No, basically, I agree with what you're saying too, as far as, you know, every child, basically, like you said, some of those parents are like, hey, are you going to do something? But
Yeah,
maybe that's how they're dealing with their child, right? Where they're having a fit or whatever the case is, they're
yeah,
like,
yeah. That's
I'm
right.
not going to give them attention because at the end of the day, like, it actually, you guys think it helps it, but it makes it worse,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I understand that because, again, with four kids, they're all different. My oldest is very, she likes to bottle everything in. She hates talking.
Mm-hmm.
So I force her a lot of times to speak, right, to share her emotions, because at the end of the day, I want her to really be in tune with, hey, how are you feeling? Now, because of that, and I want her to find her voice. Now, sometimes that backfires because she's older. So sometimes I'm like, hey, hold on, like, relax. But I know that's her expressing herself, right? So, but with her, I'm like, okay, it's good because I know she wants to bottle things in. I want her to understand, hey, it's okay to feel this way, and why are you feeling this way, right? And then with my youngest, um, with him, he's he's a sensitive kid, so I'll get on him, and he'll be upset. But I realize I just share this with uh his brother and sisters and stuff. Like when he's upset, leave him alone. It's one of those things. Like if you say like, "Hey, are you okay?" He gets more upset. Like just leave him alone. Like just leave him be, and then eventually he'll get out of it. Give him a few minutes. He's back fine, right? And then with my daughter, my youngest daughter, I definitely have to talk to her. Like, because if I get on her, it's like, oh my gosh, Dad, like, how could you ever yell at me, right? And then with my son, same thing. I just had a conversation with him with basketball because he tries to be a perfectionist and his emotions get the best of him. Where it's weird. It's like he's a perfectionist, but at the same time, he also wants to quit. I don't know. It's a weird dynamic that he battles with. And so I tell him all
I
the
get,
time, like, hey, what is that?
I get that. I'm kind of the same way as far as the perfectionist.
Yeah, like he's a perfectionist, but then he'll get mad. And I'm like, this is practice. Like, it's okay to mess up, but he wants to be perfect with everything. And so that's where and I had to talk to him, like, hey, you have to choose what do you want to do. You have to choose how you want to use these emotions. Are you going to use this emotion to get better? Or are you going to get, because if not, you're going to keep being stuck. Like, you're only going to get so far and then you're gonna stop. And I talk to him like he's grown. Like even though he's 10, I talk to him because I want him to understand these things. Um, so already I feel like because when people talk to him, they're like, "Dang, like he has an understanding of certain things." It's because I talk to him and want him to really understand these emotions. Like why, like, hey, you probably shouldn't cry over a tablet. Like that's not. a reason to cry because you can't be on the tablet right now. But you're crying because you saw a sad movie. Okay, what happened? Oh, you know what? The dog died, and it was just so sad. Imagine it if our dog died, or imagine if because when he was younger, he got sad over something that happened with the dad. And at that time, I didn't understand. Like, why are you crying for? And he didn't want to tell me. He finally told me, and I felt bad. I was like, you know what? I'm never going to react like that again, right? Because you're crying because, oh, you're looking at it like, what if something happened to my father, right? And so I say all that, bro. I know I just went on a little a rant, I guess, but yeah, I definitely agree with you as far as that. Just being able to understand what your child needs, but you have to also understand what you need in that moment too.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of like that. In the plane scenario, they say with the mask, you put it over yourself before the kid because you can't do anything for them if you're not taking care of yourself. And that's the
Mm.
same with parenting. And and that's another thing with regulating outside of just those situations is doing things for yourself outside of that keep you wholly regulated as a whole, not just situations with your child. I mean, regulations is not just parenting, it's your whole, it's every day your life, and being regulated. If you're regulated, your odds of being happier and just okay in general is important, and just working on that, finding ways, therapy, healing, working through childhood traumas and stuff where you work on those, and I've definitely done that with working through those childhood traumas and stuff, and just letting go and forgiving those things, and not having that inner child feeling the way that it felt when you were little is a huge part of being regulated, because that little child voice isn't still hurting, it's not still screaming for those things that it needs. And that's that was also a very huge thing. And then once I did that, when I think about those situations, or regulating and just in general regulating myself, I think about doing that work, and continuing to regulate is setting my child up to regulate better and not have those inner child issues once he's a father, or he's older. And because I don't want him to have to heal from me. I feel like in a way everyone kind of does, but I do not want him to feel that disconnect in his heart with the feelings between me and him as son, because I'm a single dad. I mean, my son is, he's what all I've got, like outside of my extended family, like he's going to be my person my entire life. And I never want him to feel the uncomfortability that, that I have felt and sometimes do feel with my family. I want I want to always be able to feel like he can be there for me. And, like I said, like with his autism, that emotion regulation is not only good for him to be happier and healthy emotionally, but his ability to succeed. I mean, my son is very smart. He's very smart, but if he can never regulate, that's going to hold him back from succeeding, because the dysregulation can be so intense with autism that it could keep him from getting where he wanted to be. Because I do feel like that inability to regulate has hurt my brother. And basically at his age is at a place where he can't, he's not getting past that, and I don't want him to be at that situation. So, the fact that I'm already working at, I started really working on this when my child was around 3.5. I'm already ahead of the game on that. So by no means am I perfect, but I'm self-aware. and wanting to having that in mind at all, you're already ahead of our parents because it wasn't a thing. Like emotional regulation, maybe deeply in colleges and stuff they're talking about that, but it wasn't something that was I don't know if you're on TikTok or just go through reels, but you see videos about emotional intelligence and regulating and mental health all the time. And our parents didn't see that, so I mean, we kind of already are ahead on that. So embracing it's the biggest thing.
No,
Hi,
that's true.
Hamilton.
He's like, hey, what's up? There we go, man. No, so and what you're saying too, I think is so key, especially, obviously, at least in my opinion, I feel like being emotional intelligent is such a key thing that all of us, man, women, we should all do better with. I think women do better jobs with it than us, but do a good job, doing that. And I want to ask you, do you think, um, you know, like you say, your son's autistic and your brother is as well. Do you think being able to be emotional, intelligent, being able to regulate certain things, do you think that helps with things you want to accomplish? Helps with um, just have a better understanding, right? Because obviously it's something that you're born with, right? But do you think that kind of can help with certain situations? I guess if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, just being able to look back and see the kind of things that my brother dealt with
Hmm.
the emotional intelligence, that I've gained from working through things, and trying to understand my how my brain works and how you can work through those things, and even just the feelings I felt that because I didn't know I had autism until I was an adult. So, and put him in situations to help have that, because making friends with autism is very hard. Relationships are very hard, and I don't want him to miss out on any of that, because my child has the biggest heart you will ever see, and he's so happy and he's so full of love. And seeing that transfer, uh, now that he started school and stuff, and seeing how kids react to him, knowing that he's uh, I mean, him being 5, having friends in school with autism is huge. I mean, that's hard. It's hard.
Well, I
So
was going to ask you why is just for those that's listening, right? Because if someone
yeah.
has, their child might be autistic or something as well, and they're trying to figure it out, right? So why would you say it's hard, or why would you say even relationships, right? Is it just because um, of those emotions, those up and down battles, or why would you say at times it can be a challenge? Because this is good, like you said, because right, if they're able to understand that, they can also help their child be able to get over certain humps as they go into adulthood as they get older.
Yeah, that one's a harder, more complex question, but I kind of do have an answer. Not probably not the best one, but I mean, the connecting, just that feeling of the connection, is very hard with autism. I mean,
Mm.
it takes a lot, and it takes a lot of time. Which yeah, he's around other kids a lot all day, but there's a lot of other kids too. There's a lot going on. So when he's around the situation, there's a lot of kids. The stimulation keeps him from being able to calm down and sit and
Mm.
interact. Where me and my son are locked in. I mean, we've been locked in. We get each other. We're both on the same page. We spend a bunch of time together. We're around each other a lot. So, we're locked in. So, I mean, nobody sees the side of my child like I do, unfortunately, or even hears him talk as much. So,
uh, but the connection, it takes a lot of effort, and when with he's overstimulated around, it's hard. So I mean, he has to be put in situations where it's one-on-one, low stim environments, and it just takes a lot of time. And with the I mean, just the differences and his behavior and who he is as a person, uh, kids don't understand. And that's, I mean, I guess that's a huge thing. It's gotten so much better. I mean, of understanding. I mean, it's so rare for me to, unless someone's from a small town. I've met friends who came from small towns. They didn't really know anyone with autism. They don't really have that firsthand experience outside of maybe film and brief interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Is just understanding those differences and stuff. But I mean, the kids get it. I mean, they know. I mean, the kids up at his daycare. They they don't say autism, but they know he's different.
Yeah.
But they don't frown on it. But they know he's different. And
Yeah.
I remember with my ex girlfriend's kids, she was they thought one of her sons was his age, and still thought of my son as a baby because he was behind. So it's also kind of that too, but he's also caught up a bunch since then as far
Mm-hmm.
as his development. But yeah, it's hard, and they have to be understanding. So a lot of that with making friends is also those other kids understanding those differences and leaving that space open to the different needs and stuff that a child needs, like giving them space. They might have, their stems might be, like their stuff like that they do, or verbal stuff and everything like that. That I'm sure most people have seen a kid with autism, do those different things like that. But yeah, a lot of it's just giving grace, of those kind of odd things and stuff, and being patient and uh, with that. But yeah,
Yeah, no, that's good, man. So, I want to as we get ready to close out, I want to ask you then. One is, I guess what is something that you're continuing to work on? I know you're like you say you're in this process of really just working on for yourself, but what is something that you're continuing to work on for you to be able to be better as far as understanding your emotions and things like that, and then also just how or what tips would you have for a father that's listening that is struggling with that, or shoot if they they might say hey I'm doing good with that, but then if their child is autistic or something, that's at times where they're like you know what, it goes out the window, right? It goes out the window because shoot, it could be similar to what you dealt with, bro, right? Where it's like, well, my dad will react like this, so you're supposed to just be quiet and do this, and that's that, and you're not like for whatever reason you're just not understanding that, right? So, what I guess what would you? That's a two-part question, but yeah, what would you say you're still working on for yourself, and then what is something that you feel could be helpful for the father listening?
yeah. What I'm doing for myself is trying to take care of myself more health wise. Working out is such a good stress relief to keep you regulated. You're in, better health. You're not as tired. Eating better and rest. When I am not, I mean, as any parent knows, when they're not rested, that dysregulation is, it's it's gonna happen. I mean, so yeah, I mean that first, like making sure you're getting rest. I mean, but some of that is guaranteed. Taking care of working on a regulation is going to get you more sleep with kids who have dysregulation at bedtime, because that
Mm,
is so big with especially younger kids, that
yeah.
dysregulation at bedtime. So if you're working on regulating, giving your kid that grace at bedtime and stuff, and getting into that routine, your kid's going to go to bed faster. You're going to get your better sleep. You're going to wake up feeling better. It's just going to continue to bounce back and forth and getting better, just
Yeah.
getting sleep.
And uh, another thing is just getting more open and vulnerable with my friends, and
Mhm.
having those people you go to, and having that community of people who you can talk to about these things. You're not in it alone. Like, you should. I have dad friends. I have mom friends. I have a lot of mom friends, and because my kid's mom passed away when he was 7 months old. So I mean, he doesn't
Mhm.
have that. I want to be able to give him. Right now he doesn't have a mom. I don't have a girlfriend, but I want to be able to give him the kind of love that the great women friends that I have give their children. I get a lot of great info from them, and also having those guy friends man to man who see, because like you said, women are much better regulating. So guys see it. They understand. There's dealing with the shame of that, of
Yeah.
understanding and hearing that from other men is so big. And being able to vent and stuff. And that's another thing with regulating, like stepping aside, texting a friend to complain about your kid. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, you're not talking crap about your kid, in that situation. You are just releasing it, like letting that out and just being able to talk about it. Sometimes that's all you need, and or even bouncing off, like, man, this just happened. I can't handle this right now. Like, I
Yeah.
trust you as a friend. What do I need? What should I do here? And
Mm.
another thing I would tell other men, like, the second part of the question of what they should be doing is to start that process. That is talking to people in different part of your lives, different places you are, like someone at work, someone at home, someone you can just call,
Yeah.
and people keeping you accountable for that, like especially like at work. Like, I had a friend at work, especially when things were hard at home and I'm dysregulated, there's dysregulation at work. Having that friend there who calls you out when they see your mood change, or where,
Mm.
because I wear everything on my face. I don't hide my
Yeah.
emotions. And because I have to share my emotions to keep
Yeah.
regulated.
Mm.
So he saw that, he'd be like, "Hey, what's up, man? What's going on? Let's get through this. You got to get back to you. You know."
Mm.
And that's for me, but it also steps down to my child, and having those people who, you know, and you have to be open to it though. You can't get frustrated by it. You have to have that accountability partner that you have that relationship with, that you know that you can take that from. And being humble like that is huge. And um yeah, because I mean, and um another thing about regulation, working on that regulation, I am a single father, but that regulation is so important between, us and our spouses, which brings more peace at home as well. Because when y'all are both a finely tuned team where y'all are keeping each other accountable, is huge. I saw a great actual TikTok the other day that uh, doesn't work for me right now because I'm a single parent, but I thought it was awesome for, in the future if I do, or for other
Mm-hmm.
fathers who are listening, where they have a sit down with their wife and say, "Hey, if one or other of us is in a situation where we see each other losing that cool," they have a sign, either physical or verbal, like
Yeah.
where they tap that other parent out, and
Mm.
there's no conversation after that. They
Mm.
swallow their pride, they understand, they step away, and the other parent takes over. And I thought that was awesome. I mean, the amount of times that would have been so fruitful for me, in my past relationship, would have been
Yeah.
huge. Because, like, you you know, especially when an argument, not argument, but dealing with the situation goes on longer and longer, and
Yeah.
you're exhausted, and someone steps in who isn't part of that situation or is regulated, that outcome is going to be better. Like I said, you have to be regulated to help with their dysregulation. So having that other parent be able to step in, especially like we said, the wife is probably going to be more regulated because women usually are.
Yeah.
So if they can, tap that shoulder, you step away, you can keep a situation from spiraling, where it can be over like that.
I like that, bro. No, that's excellent, man. And before we go to, man, I just want to, I always like to try to give the flowers to people because at the end of the day, you never know, when you might talk to them again, right? So I wanted to just salute you, man. Just hearing your story, you know what I mean, and man, you're a single father. I know you said right now, you're single and stuff, but man, you're more than enough for your son, right? You're more than enough for your son, man, and that woman, whenever she does come out, that she's just gonna be a bonus to the amazing things you're doing, man. And so, I salute you, man, for doing the work. And like you said, as an adult, you found out that you were borderline on the spectrum or whatever, and that hasn't stopped you. That hasn't stopped you at all. You haven't made excuses, man. Like like you say, I look at it like you're doing the work. We all of us. I don't care if you feel like you came from quote unquote the perfect family. We all have some type of childhood trauma that we're trying to deal with and figure out, good or bad, right? And so I just want to salute you, man, and and really just say, man, it might not mean much coming from me, but I'm definitely proud of you, man. Just from what you're telling me, I'm definitely proud of you, man, and I really do appreciate your time, man. You didn't have to come on, and I definitely just appreciate you sharing your story, and I know, it's going to help someone that's listening or watching on YouTube, for sure, man. And so, with that being said, y'all, like always, right? You don't have to be perfect, but you always have to be present. I'll see you guys on the next one.